Hare Krishna. Welcome to another evening in the lives of the Vaishnavacharyas. I'm your host, Chaturatma Das. Thank you all for joining us. We want to thank our host and our sponsors here, Krishna.com, and all the wonderful devotees here who do so much to assist in spreading Krishna consciousness through this wonderful medium and provide programs every night of the week and all throughout the week on the weekdays and weekends and any time that we want to tune in. So if you have any interest in helping to support this effort of Krishna.com, you can go to Krishna.com/donations and follow the instructions there on how you can assist in helping these broadcasts stay every night of the week. Okay, so, Hare Krishna, welcome to everyone. We've had a little bit of discussion going on in the chat room with our usual viewers/listeners. Bhaktin Carol, Manjesh, Iskon Prabhu, Lavananda 108. Nice little conversation going on. So we're going to get started this evening right away. One of the things that I've noted, sorry, I just knocked my table out of whack here. There we go. One of the things I've noted from the conversations that take place through the medium of the chat room and with the different devotees is that many of our listeners live in a temple community. Having the opportunity to live in a temple community is really a great fortune. Because what does it mean to live in a temple community? Temple means deity. And the deity is the central focus of any Krishna conscious community. The Lord in his deity form becomes the life and soul of the members of that community as they focus their development, their service, their advancement, their offerings, their attendance in the different programs around the deity. This is the way that the Lord appears for our benefit, one of the ways that the Lord appears for our benefit in this age of Kali Yuga. So, and none in any community are more so absorbed than the pujaris. These are the persons whose daily life it is to be completely intertwined with the remembrance of the Lord, with the service of the Lord, with the activities of planning for the festivals of the Lord, like this. And this is particularly true during festival time, for festival events. The large amount of time, the hours and weeks of planning in advance that go into any festival. And actually, one would be hard-pressed to find any religious tradition that has more festivals than the Hare Krishnas, than Vaishnavas. Practically every month there is some major type of festival to be observed. And these festivals, of course, they are filled with excitement, planning, anticipation, not only for the pujaris, but for all the members of the community that are involved in assisting to bring these activities to the forefront, to the culmination of being a major festival. And there are many, many major events, the Janmashtami, Gaur Purnima, Vyas Puja, things of this nature, which are big, big events. And then there are some smaller, more specific events to the passing of particularly seasons, for instance. One such event takes place at this time of year, in Jagannath Puri particularly, and it's called Odana Shasti. Excuse me. Odana Shasti marks the beginning of the actual winter season. And at that time, a warm cloth is offered to the form of Lord Jagannath, Balaram, and Subhadra. Prior to this offering, the cloth is brought before the temple and taken in procession by the pujaris and kirtan and festivities around the temple 3 times. And then the cloth is properly cleansed and then presented to Lord Jagannath for his pleasure and warmth during the colder winter seasons. This event was observed by one personal, dear associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that personality was Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Or sometimes, as Lord Chaitanya would call him, Premnidhi. So tonight we would like to take a little look at who is this personality, Pundarik Vidyanidhi. What is a little bit of his background? How did he become involved in this pastime with Lord Jagannath, Udan Shasti? The beginning of his life is actually very, very wondrous. There's a very nice verse given from the Gonadesha Dipika. We've quoted this book innumerable times, and this is the book of Kavi Karnapur, who we spoke about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And he described in this book the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who those associates were during the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. That Radha and Krishna from that Leela combined to form Lord Chaitanya in this Leela. Similarly, all of the Lord's associates came too. So one very nice verse here. He who was previously known in Braj as Brishabhanu is known here as Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi. When Mahaprabhu was in his own mood as Krishna and felt the pain of separation from Radha, he would call, "Father, Father." Gaurachandra was happy with Pundarik and named him Premnidhi, or the treasure house of love. Mahaprabhu always treated Pundarik Vidyanidhi with great respect because he was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. Madhava Mishra, who we'll come to know a bit more about later, Madhava Mishra is said to be his expansion, and his wife Ratnavali was Kirtida in Braj. So very elaborate description there. Pundarik Vidyanidhi's father was Baneshwar, and his mother was Ganga Devi. And he was a disciple, as it was mentioned, of Madhavendra Puri. He was the guru of Gadadhar Pandit, who we'll come to learn more about later. And he was the very intimate and dear, dear friend of Swarup Damodar. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the home of Pundarik Vidyanidhi was in East Bengal. This is what we now know to be Bangladesh. And it was in a village near modern-day Dhaka that was called Bagia. And he belonged to a particular group of Brahmanas called the Virendra Brahmanas. And the Virendra Brahmanas, as sometimes what happens with these different Brahminical groups, so we even see this in today's world, in today's society, we would see that sometimes these Virendra Brahmanas would be at odds with the Radiya Brahmanas, a different caste. And when these differences went on, some of the families would be, on the outs, so to speak. Pundarik Vidyanidhi's family, being from the Virendra caste, was sometimes, during this time of his childhood, at odds with the Radiya Brahmanas, who were prominent in this village. So, as a result, they were not living as a respectable family. They were not viewed as being a respectable family, although we see in the pastimes of the Lord that he was from a very exalted family, and he himself was a most exalted personality. Such are sometimes the pastimes of the Lord's devotees, to appear to be in compromised positions, such as Prahlad Maharaj, taking his birth from Hiranyakasipu, the greatest of the demoniac opponents of the personality of Godhead, but the most exalted son, Sri Prahlad. So, in this way it was going on. Now, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati informs us that in Vrindavan there are still descendants living of this family from Pundarik Vidyanidhi, which is quite amazing, because one of the habits of this particular caste of Brahmanas was to have only one son. And then that son would marry, and he would have one son like that. So, they weren't very expansive families, and as a result, the family members dwindled over the course of time to being very few. So, there's a temple that was constructed in this village where Pundarik Vidyanidhi grew up, and Prabhupada mentions about this temple where it is, and that it's very, very old and in need of much repair. And that Prabhupada says, and this is in the mid-70s when he was writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, he mentions that this temple will soon crumble if it is not maintained. Since that time, of course, many of the places of the associates of Mahaprabhu have been redeveloped under the direction of the different programs going on in Sri Mayapur Dham. I can't remember if this place is one of those. I seem to remember it was, but I'm not positive. Seeing as how it was in modern-day Bangladesh, this may not be the fact. So, now, Pundarik Vidyanidhi himself was very, very wealthy, a zamindar, a landowner, of great opulence and wealth, coming from a very substantial Brahminical family. And he had two homes, one in Chittagong, which is a place in East Bengal, and one in Sri Navadvip, near Sri Mayapur. And he would sometimes spend part of the time in one house and sometimes spend part of the time in the other house. This was, the nature of anyone that had any type of wealth and opulence. Sometimes they're here, sometimes they're there. So Pundarik also had many other names. Just some of those: Sri Vidyanidhi, taking a play on his last name, on the second half of his name, Vidyanidhi. Acharya Nidhi, Bhakti Nidhi. As we mentioned, Mahaprabhu openly addressed him as Prem Nidhi. And it's mentioned that simply by hearing the names of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Lord Gauranga said the whole world will become purified. Prem Nidhi's pure devotion has caused me to cry profusely and loudly to call out, "Oh Father, oh Father, oh Father," in this way. Now, of course, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was viewed as father, not only because he was the senior to Mahaprabhu, being the disciple of Madhavendra Puri, as was Advaitacharya, but also because he was the incarnation of King Vrishabhanu, the father of Srimati Radharani. So these two combinations gave Mahaprabhu a great mood of respect towards Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Prem Nidhi. After some time in Chittagong, Pundarik Vidyanidhi moved his family to Navadvip because he wished to live by the banks of the Ganges River. He had amazing respect for Mother Ganga. A matter of fact, Pundarik's respect for the Ganges was so great that he would not enter the Ganges River to take his bath because he did not want to put his feet in her sacred waters. So he would go to the bank of the Ganga and he would take some dipping of the water and bathe himself in this way. He would not want to keep any type of offensive mentality in putting his feet in Mother Ganges. And it was very painful for him to see the sometimes offensive behavior of those in the Ganga, cleaning their teeth, gargling, washing their hair, things like this. This caused him great pain. And so for this reason, he wouldn't go to the Ganga during the daytime, where he would see these things. He would go to the Ganga at night and respect her in this way. So in this way, he had great respect for Mother Ganges and living a very, very comfortable life. He externally appeared to be a very materialistic person. Due to his comfort, he was quite wealthy, and as a result, many people viewed him in this manner. And Mahaprabhu said, but just by hearing his name, the whole world will become purified. So in this way, Mahaprabhu was constantly appreciating the activities of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. It's mentioned that Pundarik Vidyanidhi is thought to have taken initiation from Madhavendra Puri at the same time as Advaitacharya. Not only were they god brothers, but that they took initiation at the same time. Pundarik Vidyanidhi being a bit older than Mahaprabhu, of course, and this putting him in the league with Advaitacharya as an associate of as a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions that this is one of the reasons why we find that he was so respected by Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Charitamrita goes on to explain that Pundarik Vidyanidhi is considered to be one of the major branches of the tree of devotional service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We were speaking these last couple of weeks describing the different trees, the different branches of Mahaprabhu, particularly Narahari Sakhar Thakur and his family, his brother Madhava, and his brother Mukunda. So in this way we see that also Pundarik Vidyanidhi was considered a very prominent personality. As I mentioned, he was living a very comfortably opulent life. Mukunda Dutt and Vasudev Dutt, they both were living in Navadvip. They were originally from Chittagong also. So they knew the character and the behavior of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And they were acquainted with him. And as we mentioned earlier, Madhava Mishra was a good friend of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And Madhava Mishra happened to be the father of Gadadhar Pandit. So in this way there was a little bit of a connection. So Mukunda, knowing the transcendental pastimes of his friend Pundarik Vidyanidhi and his spiritual nature, thought that this would be very nice to make some arrangement here. So when Pundarik had moved to Navadvip, Mukunda decided that he should introduce Gadadhar to him. And so he told Gadadhar, he said, I know one very, very great saintly person, one highly advanced devotee, and I want to take you to meet this great Vaishnava. So Shri Gadadhar Pandit, he was a brahmachari from birth, first of all. And being a brahmachari from birth, he was very, very austere, very renounced, very controlled in his senses. And so, he practically was living an ascetic lifestyle. So he was thinking, okay, I'll meet a person like this. So when he was brought by Mukunda to the presence of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he found Pundarik Vidyanidhi reclining on an opulent polished brass bed, and this was covered with sheets that were as white as the foam of milk, made of the finest of silk. And he was reclining on beautiful red silk embroidered pillows, and that the bed was covered by a three-tiered canopy, not just a single canopy, but a three-tiered canopy, and draping from the canopy were pearls strung all the way around like this. Very, very expensive clothes, and the finest of perfumes was emanating from him. And to the surprise of Gadadhar Pandit, he was smoking a hookah. He had a hookah sitting there smoking. And surrounded by all the different trappings of sensual life. A gem-studded pond box was sitting to one side, was filled with different types of spices and betel like this, and two shiny spittoons, it mentions, set like centuries on either side of his bedstead. And there was a beautiful golden mirror. And seeing that this mirror had become stained by the redness of the betel in the mouth of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Gadadhar was quite surprised. Pundarik Vidyanidhi laughed at these things, and he had two servants, one on either side, cooling and fanning him with a peacock fan. Gadadhar Pandit was unable to recognize this personality as any type of great devotee. As a matter of fact, indeed, he felt completely let down, disappointed. I mean, he was coming expecting to see some sadhu, some guru, someone who he could approach for spiritual knowledge and learn from that person, someone he could take shelter of and enhance his vows of austerity, his ascetic lifestyle. And to his surprise, he sees what he determined as a sense gratifier. Was this a Vaishnava? Or was this some prince wallowing in the lap of luxury, in the opulence of uncontrolled senses? So in this way, in the mind of Gadadhar Pandit, some doubt began to develop about the character of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now Mukunda Dutt was a very advanced devotee. He could see both from the face of Gadadhar Pandit and understand by looking at the face, the mind of Gadadhar Pandit, that he was very, very dissatisfied. So what he did was, just to show the inner mood of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he chanted 2 particular verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, verses which fanned the flame of love of God that was always dormant just beneath the surface of Pundarik Vidyanidhi's demeanor. So these 2 verses were the following. How truly amazing! The sister of Bakasura, the evil Putana witch, was sent on a mission to kill Krishna. He drank the Kalakuta poison that was mixed with her breast milk, and despite her evil intentions, he awarded her the position of a mother. Who is more merciful that I could take shelter of than him? That Rakshashi Putana was a blood-drinking killer of children. Even though she wanted to kill baby Krishna, because she gave her breast milk, although smeared with poison, she attained the auspicious goal of being a nurse in the spiritual kingdom. This is from the 10th canto, 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, as soon as Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard these verses, glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he began to cry out, Ha Krishna, Ha Krishna, indicating the merciful Krishna. And he fell to the ground in a great swoon of ecstasy. Hearing these words totally transformed Pundarik Vidyanidhi. No longer was he absorbed in this apparently comfortable lifestyle. It mentions as the Ganges River flows, tears, torrents of tears flowed out of his eyes. Perspiration rained from his body. His hairs stood upon end. He began ripping off his embroidered fine silk clothing and rolling about on the ground, thrashing his legs, upsetting all of the hookah and the spittoons and the pan boxes, everything being torn to shreds in this way. His clothes, his brass bed, the mirror, everything was just all ripped to shreds and smashed to bits. His servants were very concerned. 10 men came forward that were in his employ and tried to restrain him, tried to stop him, but so deep were his symptoms that they could not have any success. So these manifestations of Pundarik Vidyanidhi's pure love for Krishna, they were understood, of course, by Mukunda. And finally, after some time, it mentions 6 hours later, he regained his composure. Now, these symptoms are understood by highly advanced devotees to be the genuine manifestations of Krishna Prema. Not the common manifestations that would be experienced by many of us, but the deep spiritual transformations upon the sound of Krishna's name. So, when Gadadhar Pandit saw these manifestations of love in the body of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he realized he had committed an offense in his mind. Committed an offense in his mind. Now, there are 3 ways one can commit an offense. There's a wonderful story told how the demigods decided they wanted to see who was the most pure-hearted, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or Lord Vishnu. So they elected Narada Muni, and they sent Narada to go and make a different type of offense than each of them. I'm sorry, not Narada, excuse me, they sent Bhrigu. So, in this way, first he went to Lord Brahma, who's his father. And when he approached his father, Lord Brahma saw his son coming, and he paid no respects to him. He did not give any salutation, he did not give any pranams, he didn't show any respect. And he could see that Lord Brahma became angry within his mind, but he controlled his anger. He became angry within his mind, but he controlled his anger. But it was manifest by his demeanor. So he made note, okay, by this simple offense his mind has become disturbed. Then he went to see Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, of course, is his brother. And so when Lord Shiva saw him, he said, "Oh, my dear brother, come." And he put his arms out to embrace him. The brothers, this is how they greet each other. They embrace each other with heartfelt feelings. And the Muni looked at him and he said, "Oh, my dear brother," he said, "you're covered with ashes from the crematorium. You have a necklace of skulls. You're barely clothed and live on earth. Don't come near me. I cannot be seen with such a person as you." Of course, Lord Shiva became very, very angry. He's known as Rudra, one who manifests this anger at the time of the dissolution of the universe. So this way he began to manifest, and his consort Parvati was able to, Sati, was able to calm him down. So this note was made. So then the Muni went to Lord Vishnu. Now when he approached Lord Vishnu, he committed the most grievous of offenses. He placed his foot on the chest of Lord Vishnu. Now, of course, as Vaishnavas, we mentioned some time ago, we never use our feet for anything other than walking. We don't touch things with our feet. We don't touch others with our feet. We don't step on others. This is not the proper way to show respect. So, in this way, he offended Lord Vishnu himself by kicking him on the chest. Lord Vishnu's reaction was quite exemplary. He addressed the Brahmana. He said, "My dear sage, my dear Brahmana, I simply hope that the hardness of my chest has not caused any pain to your soft feet." So this was noted that Lord Vishnu was the most tolerant, the most advanced and free from the modes of anger and passion. Now, of course, we know that on Vishnu's chest is the goddess of fortune residing there, and she did not take very kindly to the foot of Bhrigu, and so she put a curse on all the Brahmins that they would be poor from that time on. So, in this way, the mind was understood that Gadadhar had committed an offense in his mind. He realized, within my mind, I've committed this offense. Therefore, the only suitable way to diminish this offense is to take initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So, in this way, he took initiation, and it was arranged by Mukunda. Some days later, just a short time after that, Mukunda made all the arrangements, communicated to Pundarik Vidyanidhi, of course, this, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi agreed, yes, I will give him initiation. So, in this way, Gadadhar Pandit took the mantra of initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now, this is an interesting thing, because in Krishna Lila, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, we mentioned, is Vrishabhanu, and Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani. Vrishabhanu was the father of Radharani. So how appropriate that intimate exchange between guru and disciple should manifest in Chaitanya Lila. And actually, the deep affection that they had in their previous life as father and daughter manifested in their very close association and their very close relationship as guru and disciple during the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It mentions that the mood of Gadadhar Pandit was the actual proper mood, because one cannot judge a Vaishnava by their external activities. They have to understand their heart. There's a famous verse that says, even the gods themselves are unable to recognize a Vaishnava, so how can a foolish, fallen child like myself do so? This was the mood of Gadadhar Pandit. So, even though Pundarik Vidyanidhi was a great Vaishnava, the incarnation of Vrishabhanu, the intimate associate of Mahaprabhu, the advanced disciple of Madhavendra Puri, he kept all this secret. As Mahaprabhu, we mentioned last week, was known as Triyuga Avatar, and kept his pastimes from all but his intimate associates as being those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the same way, Pundarik Vidyanidhi kept all of his internal moods of devotion unexposed. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gives a very nice commentary on this I'd like to read. It says that Krishna Lila is not accessible to pure sensual understanding. Krishna's servants occasionally go unrecognized due to their apparently materialistic surroundings. In this way, they deceive the conditioned souls. Most scholars take Krishna's activities to be those of a material lover because of their own obsession with sensuality. and thus they have no faith in him. Others consider Krishna to be an ordinary man who was born and who died, and thus they have no idea that they themselves are unworthy of understanding the real spiritual nature. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also sometimes called the hidden incarnation for this reason. In the same spirit, Pundarik Vidyanidhi put on a show of being a sensualist for those who were capable of being deceived by someone's external appearance. And this was Gadadhar Pandit's initial observance. So it mentions that one day Pundarik Vidyanidhi came to visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it was quite late at night, quite late. And as soon as he saw the Lord, he became so overwhelmed that he did not even offer obeisances. And Mahaprabhu was similarly very anxious to see his devotee, Pundarik, and he immediately took him to his breast and embraced him. Big exchange of friendship and love and appreciation for each other was there. And the other devotees, they saw this, and they saw Mahaprabhu crying, calling Pundarik father, father, because this was his senior. So in this way, Mahaprabhu always showed the greatest respect to Pundarik Vidyanidhi, no matter how he engaged himself. Now, after some time in his Navadvipa Lila, we mentioned that Mahaprabhu moved to Puri. After taking sannyas and requiring to leave his home and give up the association of his beautiful young wife and his aged mother, he moved to Puri at his mother's request. At least, she said, you'll be close and I'll be able to hear some activities of your service and of what you're doing, some reports. So in this way, he stayed in Jagannath Puri. And we've spoken many times of how Shivananda Singh would organize all of the devotees annually from Bengal for their pilgrimage to Jagannath Puri for the Rath Yatra festival. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi was also part of this. And he would go along with Nityananda and Haridas and like this, going from Bengal all the way to Jagannath Puri. And in this way, many of the pastimes of Jagannath Puri are there in the life of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Mahaprabhu had ordered the devotees to come like this, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi was very, very happy to come and be one of these associates. Also during this time, he would engage in the kirtan pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during the Rath Yatra Lila. Advaita, Nityananda, Mukunda, they would all come and take part in these wonderful pastimes. Pundarik Vidyanidhi, it mentions, was also present at Lord Jagannath's Chandan Yatra. And after the Chandan Yatra festival, you may remember that all the devotees, they went to the Narendra Sarovara Lake, and there at the Narendra Sarovara Lake, they engaged in water sports. It mentions there how Nityananda and Advaita was splashing each other. And in the same way, Pundarik and Swarup Damodar, when Pundarik was visiting, he became very close friends with Swarup Damodar. And so they were in the water. All of these grown men, Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat, both describe how all of these grown men were in the Narendra Sarovara and splashing water just like young boys, playing and having such fun in water sport activities like this. Excuse me. These activities are very important because it is necessary in our Krishna consciousness to have close friendships. Close friendships that are heightened, as we mentioned last week or the week before, by that verse from Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita as to how devotees share their loving exchanges with each other by exchanging gifts and exchanging their confidences and serving each other. And in this way, this assists us in our advancement in devotional service. So these types of friendships we saw there in the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We saw that Advaita and Nityananda had a very wonderful friendship with each other. We saw that Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Swarup Damodar and so many others had this mood of sharing their Krishna consciousness together. And this is a mood that we should also have with our God brothers and God sisters. It mentions that after the Chandan Yatra, that Lord Chaitanya arranged for the cleansing of the Gundisha Marjan temple, and that the cleansing of this temple was observed by all the devotees that were there. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was there for this. We know how Mahaprabhu gathered all the devotees around and had all of them clean the Gundisha temple in preparation for Lord Jagannath's arrival. And then he would judge each one. How much dirt has this one accumulated? How much dirt has that one accumulated? And he would chide those that had a smaller pile and encourage those that had a bigger pile. In this way, encouraging every devotee to give their utmost to this activity of the cleansing of the Gundisha temple. And then, of course, afterwards, there was the relishing of Mahaprasad. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was involved in those pastimes also there. Now, during this time in Puri, Gadadhar Pandit was in a bit of a dilemma. He came to Mahaprabhu and he said to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, ever since I repeated my Ishta mantra to someone else, I've been unable to concentrate when I chant. So I would like you to repeat my mantra into my ear, reinitiate me into that mantra, please. Now, the idea here is that, as we mentioned previously, generally speaking, one did not share their specific mantra. The Hare Krishna mantra is given to everyone, but one did not share their specific mantra. And by doing that, it was thought that one would lose the potency of that mantra. And so Gadadhar Pandit is showing this in this pastime that we'll see the full story in a moment, that I've done this and now I'm not able to experience that full satisfaction from the chanting of my mantra. So Mahaprabhu, will you please reinitiate me? Give me that mantra again. So Mahaprabhu answered him. He says, you already have a mantra padekshika guru. You should be very careful. For to take initiation in that mantra a second time from someone else will be a great offense to your guru. Everything I have is yours, even my life, what to speak of my mantra. But as long as your guru is alive, it is improper for you to ask me to repeat that by way of reinitiating you. This is all told in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And this is a very important point, not to stress this too much, but sometimes we see that devotees will leave their initiating guru even while a guru is in good standing. Now, of course, if one's guru goes away from the devotional path, so many things become complicated. But if, while one's spiritual master is present, and if one's spiritual master is in good standing, one departs from that and asks to receive the mantra again from someone else, we can see from this explanation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself that this is a great offense, that this should be avoided at all cost. So Gadadhar, he responded, he said, oh, but my guru isn't here, so you please do it here where he's not present. Sometimes persons make this statement about Srila Prabhupada, that he's not here, therefore we need to have something from some other source that Prabhupada wasn't able to supply us. Sometimes these things are said. So Mahaprabhu says that destiny will bring you to your guru, Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Pundarik Vidyanidhi will be here in Puri in 10 days short. So you will just wait that time. In the same way, would we not be challenged that if we're feeling some separation from Srila Prabhupada, to simply wait out the balance of this short life? And by waiting out the balance of this short life, then we can also have that association in the spiritual world with Srila Prabhupada. So this is something that was very, very important, and Mahaprabhu felt it was essential to make this. So when Pundarik Vidyanidhi did arrive on the scene, Mahaprabhu greeted him as he always did. Oh, Father, Bap, Father! And Gadadhar, he asked Premnidhi, he said, you please repeat this Ishta mantra to me, for I feel I have lost the potency. To which Pundarik Vidyanidhi very happily did so. Chaitanya Bhagavat says, how can Pundarik Vidyanidhi sufficiently be glorified? He has such a loving disciple as Gadadhar Pandit. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur made a commentary on the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and he mentions this. The mantra is that divine sound, or Shabdha Brahmana, which destroys the mental aptitude for sense gratification. If one instructs a faithless person in this divine sound, the mind then becomes contaminated. If one's divine understanding, Divya Gyan, is destroyed, then one must seek the same again. Gadadhar Pandit understood this, and so he asked Gaur Sundar Mahaprabhu to reinitiate him. Mahaprabhu's judgment, however, was that he should go to his own guru to hear that mantra again. The lesson to be learned here is this. This is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur speaking. Srila Gadadhar Pandit Goswami is Mahaprabhu's eternal associate. It is thus impossible that any contamination could have entered his mind. It is only through Gadadhar that he was instructing those who would be a guru that if one instructs unqualified persons in their mantra, it may lose its potency and no longer bring joy to the heart of the practitioner. When this happens, it is necessary for the guru to give that mantra again. So, in this way, the example is given from both sides as a warning to the disciple about going elsewhere and to the guru about casually or carelessly giving initiation. Now, we started off this discussion of bringing Pundarik Vidyanidhi into the pastimes of Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri during the month of Odan Shasti, during the festival of Odan Shasti. 1 year after the Rath Yatra festival was finished, Shivananda Sain and all the Bengal devotees returned. But Pundarik Vidyanidhi decided he wanted to stay in Puri, and he stayed in Puri. And during this time, he developed a very close relationship with Swarup Damodar. Now, this allowed him, being in Puri longer than just the Rath Yatra, once the seasons changed and the cooler weather came and the winter season happened, to see this Odan Shasti festival. And as we mentioned, this is where the Lord is dressed with new cloth that is bought and is taken on procession and purified in this way. It is said that it is supposed to be washed to remove the starch. Any of you that have bought a new dhoti in Lowy Bazaar or received one that has just recently come, you know you can fold them open and stand them up on end. They'll stand there because the starch is so heavy in them. So this would be washed out, and then the cloth would be offered to Lord Jagannath. So in this way, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, of course, was a very strict sadachar. At this point, he was very, very well known for his observance of the different rules and regulations of the Vaishnavas. So he observed that the priest had not properly removed the starch from the cloth, and that this cloth was being offered to Lord Jagannath. And he began to think in his mind that this was not appropriate behavior. Matter of fact, Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions he became a bit hateful in his thinking. So, as he was very close to Swarup Damodar, the two of them, as we mentioned from the Upadeshamrita, they shared different ideas with one another very openly. So Pundarik spoke very frankly with Swarup Damodar, and he said, why do they give this unwashed cloth to Lord Jagannath? The people of this country, they certainly know the rules and regulations, so why have they given this unclean cloth to him in this way? So, because of the uncommon yet equal devotional mood they had, they spoke frankly about this. And Swarup Damodar said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is beyond all of these rules and regulations that restrict others. Said this is not necessary for him. It may be a general custom, but there's no fault if this cloth is offered to the Lord. Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he then said, I'm not very satisfied with that answer. He said, it may be that it is true for the Lord himself that he does not have to follow these rules and regulations. He said, but the servants of the Lord, they should certainly follow these rules and regulations. While the Sri Vigraha is beyond any material conception, you can say this about him, the servants are not of that same nature. So we have to judge, is their behavior proper, or is their behavior improper? And in this case, I see that their behavior was improper. So in this way, he was quite critical and judgmental and finding fault with the pujaris of Lord Jagannath. So in this way, the two of them discussed back and forth. And in due course of time, they finished their discussion. They went and they took their prasad. And then during the course of this, of course, Sri Damodar was strongly sticking to the point that there was no fault on the part of these servants of Jagannath. This is their activities like this. So that night, they retired to their quarters for taking rest. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi had a very fitful sleep. He did not sleep very comfortably. And at one point in his sleeping, he had a dream. And he saw that Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram had both come before him. And Lord Jagannath was in a very, very angry mood. And they saw him, and they came before him, Pundarik, and they slapped him on the cheeks. They slapped him on the face. Back and forth, both of them, slapping him like this. This was his dream. And he began to cry out because it was actually painful. Oh, Krishna, save me. Oh, Krishna, save me. And Jagannath said, save you? Save you? He said, there is no end to your offenses. Just as there is no question of pure or impure in my case, the same holds true for my servants. You are staying here in Jagannath Puri as a guest. You should know the proper understanding of what is spiritual and what is material. If you think that the activities of my pujaris are so impure, then why don't you leave here? Go to your home in Navadvip and do not bother coming here anymore. There you can maintain your high standard of purity. So in this way, Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram directly came to Pundarik Vidyanidhi, slapping him in the cheeks, chastising him for his offensive mentality, and correcting him in his thinking. So the next morning, when Pundarik Vidyanidhi woke up, he saw in the mirror that, without fail, his cheeks were red and swollen from the transcendental punishment of Sri Jagannath and Sri Balaram. So he was very embarrassed to be in public. But of course his good friend Sri Damodar came to see him and saw him and inquired, what has happened? Your cheeks are all swollen and red. So, being confidential friends, Pundarik Vidyanidhi shared this dream with him and described exactly what had happened to him and how he had received the mercy of Lord Jagannath. So this pastime shows just how fortunate and how dear Pundarik Vidyanidhi was to Lord Jagannath and to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that the Lord would personally come to his dearest devotee to punish him because of his offensive comments about his servants. So this is a very wonderful lesson to us to be very, very cautious in our service to the devotees of the Lord, and particularly to those that are serving the Lord, and to be very, very careful about our mental state of mind, what to speak of our verbal words, as they may find fault with their Vaishnavas. So this is a very wonderful explanation that is given. Vrindavan Das Thakur, in his Chaitanya Bhagavat, gives a very elaborate explanation in the Madhya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj tells about this pastime, and then he briefly says, this has been elaborately explained by Vrindavan Das Thakur, so I will not expand, as he said this many times, or this book will become very voluminous. So, in the Antya Lila, the last chapter of the Antya Lila, 10th chapter, is a description by Vrindavan Das Thakur of this pastime. We have very little time left tonight, but I'm going to try to read this because it's very, very wonderful, and we can hear this directly from Vrindavan Das Thakur. Then came the festival Odon Shasti, where Lord Jagannath receives new garments. On that day, according to their own desires, the servants of the Lord offer new starched garments to Lord Jagannath. Lord Chaitanya and the devotees went to see the festival, offering the new garments. Mridungas, conch shells, kartals, and various musical instruments made a great musical sound. Numerous different garments of many kinds were offered on that day. Seeing this festival of the offering of the garments all the way through to the end of the night, Lord Chaitanya and his devotees floated in an ecstatic ocean of love. Lord Chaitanya is both the worshipper and the object of worship, but without his mercy no one can understand this. Many silken garments were offered, garments of white, yellow, blue, and many other colors. Splendid garments, garments sewn with gold and pearls. Excuse me. After the garments were offered, then flower garlands were offered, flower bracelets, flower crowns, with incense, lamps, and 16 types of offerings of scented water. Arti was offered to Lord Jagannath. Many varieties of food were also offered. After seeing this festival, Lord Chaitanya and his associates happily returned home. At home he bid good night to his associates, and the Lord retired for his own room. When everyone had left, Pundarik Vidyanidhi stayed with Swarup Damodar. The two of them spoke from their hearts. Without deception, they told each other everything. A doubt about Lord Jagannath's accepting new starched garments took birth within Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He asked Swarup Damodar, "Why do they give new starched garments to the Lord? Why, ignoring the Shrutis and Smritis, and without even washing them first, in this country do they offer starched garments to the Lord?" Swarup Damodar replied, "Listen to this explanation. There is no fault in the custom of this country of Puri. People who know the Shruti and Smriti may not always observe this festival. Still, if the Supreme Lord did not desire this festival, would he not forbid the king to observe it?" Then Pundarik Vidyanidhi said, "That is good. The Supreme Lord may do whatever he wishes. But how can the Lord's servants imitate him and do whatever they wish? Why would Lord Jagannath's priests, decorators, servants, and message carriers offer him impure, unwashed, starched garments? Lord Jagannath is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He may do whatever he does. But does that mean that everyone else may do whatever they wish? When one touches an unwashed, starched garment, one must immediately wash his own hands. This is a rule that any intelligent person follows." Not thinking of this, the king's representatives put unwashed, starched garments on the Supreme King's head. Then Swarup Damodar said, "Listen, my dear brother Pundarik, I think there is nothing wrong with this Odon Shasti festival. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has descended into this world as Lord Jagannath. He does not have to think about rules and regulations." Pundarik Vidyanidhi replied, "My dear brother, please hear my words. Lord Jagannath is indeed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If he jumps over any rule or prohibition, he is not to be blamed. He is indeed the Personality of Godhead who is staying here in Jagannath Puri. He may neglect all the ordinary customs. He is indeed the Personality of Godhead descended into this world." After this conversation, the two friends walked along the path. They smiled, they laughed, and they continued talking. Holding hands and walking and laughing in this way, they could discuss the idea that Lord Jagannath's servants could not have any fault. They knew the power and glory of the Lord's servants. They knew how much Lord Krishna loves his servants. The Lord had personally bewildered the mind of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now, hear how the Lord broke that bewilderment. The two friends left the room and happily performed their evening duties to the Lord. After accepting their meal, They returned to the Lord's place and fell asleep. Lord Chaitanya knows everything. Manifesting the form of Lord Jagannath, he entered into the dream of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Pundarik Vidyanidhi saw Lord Jagannath in his dream. Lord Jagannath angrily stared at Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He then slapped Pundarik Vidyanidhi's cheeks. Both the brothers, Jagannath and Balaram, began to slap Pundarik Vidyanidhi's cheeks. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was in pain. "Krishna, save me. Please forgive my offense." He said, "Oh Lord, what is my offense that you are slapping me in this way?" The Lord replied, "Your offenses have no end. You do not know anything about the exalted nature of me or my servants, even though you stay in this exalted place of Jagannath Puri. Why do you stay here in Puri? It will ruin your status in the upper caste. You should go back to your own home. Then you may protect your upper caste status. You thought there was something wrong with my festival. You treat me, the Supreme Lord, very wonderfully, but you criticize my servants. You saw a mistake in their offering of unwashed, starched garments." In the dream, Pundarik Vidyanidhi became scared in his heart. Holding the Lord's graceful feet to his head, he wept, "Oh, my Lord, please forgive my offenses. I am a great sinner. I am an offender. Lord, I tell this to you. Please forgive me. You have punished this mouth that has mocked your servants by slapping its cheeks. Lord, in this way you have been very good to me. An auspicious day now dawns for me. With your own graceful hand you have slapped my mouth and cheeks." Lord Jagannath then said, "Seeing that you are my servant, I have been kind to you. That is why I have punished you in this way. Do not offend my devotees." In that dream, the two lords cast an affectionate glance at Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Then both the brothers, Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram, returned to the temple. After seeing this dream, Pundarik Vidyanidhi woke up. Seeing on his cheeks the slaps of the Lord's hands, he smiled. Seeing on his cheeks the marks of Lord Jagannath's slaps, Pundarik Vidyanidhi said, "This is auspicious. This is very auspicious. I have committed an offense, and the Lord has punished me. I am fortunate that the Lord has punished me. Look at Pundarik Vidyanidhi's glories. The Supreme Lord's mercy to his servant is very great. To teach him, the Lord never punished even his own son Pradyumna in the same way. Neither did the Lord punish Sita, Rukmini, or Satyabhama, or any of his other personal associates. It is not often that the Lord will directly appear before someone in a dream and punish them. A devotee punished in a dream is very fortunate. When he awakes, his offenses are no more. It is his merciful punishment. If he is mercifully punished by the Lord in a dream, the devotee attains all good within this world. In the world, there is no one more fortunate than him. The Lord never speaks in dreams to non-devotees. They may see many dreams. They may see their acts of blasphemy and violence, but the Lord never enters their dreams to punish them. If the Supreme Lord appears before someone in a dream, that person is very fortunate. This is the opinion of Vrindavan Das Thakur. Everyone should see the great mercy that the Supreme Lord gave to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. At dawn, Pundarik Vidyanidhi awakened. On his cheeks he saw the marks where the Lord's hands had slapped him. He visited Sarup Damodar, and the two of them conversed about it. On this day, every day he would awake and visit Sarup Damodar, and the two of them would visit Lord Jagannath. On this day, he went to visit Sarup Damodar, but told him he had to speak something to him. Sarup Damodar said, "This morning, why did you not rise from your sleep and go to see Lord Jagannath?" Pundarik Vidyanidhi said, "My brother, I have come here because I have something I must say." Then Sarup Damodar saw Pundarik's cheeks, and he said, "How did you get those marks on your cheeks?" Pundarik Vidyanidhi said, "Listen, my brother, yesterday I had a doubt. I criticized the servants of the Lord for offering those starched, unwashed garments to him. For that I was hot in the cheeks with anger. Today you can see the result of this. Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram came to me in a dream, and they slapped me. Saying, "You have criticized the offering garments to us," they slapped my cheeks. They struck my cheeks with the rings on their fingers. I cannot say anything more. Embarrassed, I cannot say anything more. Pundarik Vidyanidhi had no power to speak. Oh, my brothers, in your hearts, please know how fortunate Pundarik Vidyanidhi was. Seeing Lord Jagannath's great love for Pundarik Vidyanidhi, saintly Swarup Damodar floated in an ocean of bliss. A true friend is happy to see when his friend becomes fortunate. The two friends laughed together with great joy at this. Swarup Damodar said, "Listen, O my brother, I have never seen or heard of any punishment as wonderful as this. I have never seen or heard that the Supreme Lord would come in a dream and personally punish anyone." In this way, the two friends floated in happiness. Day and night they tasted the nectar of the narrations of Lord Krishna and did not know anything of the external world. So, in this way, it mentions at the end of this chapter, Vrindavan Das Thakur says, anyone who hears or reads these activities of Pundarik Vidyanidhi will attain Lord Krishna's lotus feet. That is inevitable. So this is a bit more detailed explanation of this wonderful pastime of this greatly exalted devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So we will finish there with this evening's speaking about Pundarik Vidyanidhi Prabhu, one of the most glorious associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus end another episode in the lives of the Vaishnavacharyas. Thank you very much. I'm your host, Chaturatma. If anyone in our chat room has any questions and would like to post them, they can feel free. We're going to go off air now, and I can address anything from the chat room if anyone likes. Once again, we invite you to join us next Monday for another chapter in Lives of the Vaishnavacharyas. Hare Krishna.